Hello again and welcome once again to another edition of the Catholic View for Women, where of course we always discuss all the issues out there from a truly Catholic perspective. I'm Teresa Tomeo. I co-host this program. I also host the daily EWTN radio program Catholic Connection, and as always joined by wonderful co-hosts Astrid Bennett Gutierrez from Hispanics for Life and Janet Morena from Silent No More and Priests for Life. And boy, this is going to be an interesting show because we are going to be talking about the guys. I know this is Catholic View for Women, but we're going to be talking about,
we're going to talk about the guys.
For the guys. And I think this is really important for women to hear from men who are struggling with the same issues that many of our single women are struggling with. And all of us really are called to live chastely. But we always hear when we go out on speaking events, and you being in the pro-life movement, you being in the pro-life movement, but we all do a lot on the teaching of chastity. And we often hear from women of all ages how difficult it is to be a Catholic woman in the world, trying to live out your faith and to be holy and to be chaste, as we're all called to be chaste. But it's also a challenge for the guys, because we also, I hear from a lot of men who listen to my radio show who say, you know, I'm trying to be a good Catholic guy, but I go out and I date a woman, and I'm trying to be respectful, and she thinks there's something wrong with me if I don't encourage sexual activity. Like now they're saying even on the first date. So that's why we wanted to explore this topic from their perspective.
Well, sure. And, you know, I can remember growing up in the 50s and 60s, you know, women, the focus was young girls. You know, you're not supposed to kiss a guy and don't do this, don't do that. But what about the guys? You know, there was a cultural thing back then. There was girls shouldn't do anything, but the guys could, you know that old expression, go sow your oats, you know. Men used to say that. I used to say, sow those oats with who? You someone else's daughter, you know. So I think, but nowadays, I think the men are really struggling just as much as the women are to live a chaste life, because the expectations and the culture, it's so over-sexualizing everybody, not just the women, but the men. And the expectation is on the first date, off to the bedroom they go. I mean, it's like become very popular, you know.
In the Hispanic community, too, we have those double standards, too. We see the machismo, where certain things are expected from the woman to be a certain way, and the men are supposed to go and sow the wild oats, too. But, you know, now we have so many families striving for holiness, for a better way. A lot of men that are striving. And sometimes I think the men and the women have to realize that there are other men, other women that are also striving, and just really to pray to God, trust that there are people, and I think if you set your standards high, you'll find those people that also have those high standards. God will lead you to them. But I think we have to talk about this because we have to understand that guys are also struggling to find someone like-minded as well.
Exactly. Well, speaking of that, you know, I was in Rome not too long ago, and we have a member of our Priest for Life family, Geoffrey Strickland. He's our Rome office associate, and he's a canon lawyer, believe it or not, and he's so brilliant. He speaks like 7 languages.
7 languages.
7 languages. I mean, he's studying now. He's trying to perfect his Arabic. I said, Geoffrey, why are you doing that? He says, oh, well, you know, the evangelization out in the Middle East is going to be very important for Catholics. I have to be able to know Arabic. I said, oh, my goodness. You know, he's amazing. He's a wonderful young man living a chaste life. And recently I said, okay, Geoffrey, I want to hear firsthand. Tell me about those struggles. So let's see what Geoffrey had to say about from the guy's point of view.
I think one of the, I guess I would say, misconceptions out there is that, you know, that sure there are girls out there who are committed to chaste lives, that are committed to daily prayer, and who, you know, are really waiting for a good guy to be out there. That really, you know, people argue, well, there aren't any good guys out there. There aren't any guys that are committed to chastity or to daily prayer, etc., and waiting to marriage. And I would argue that there are good men out there. And I would also argue that just as there's, you know, women who have had difficult stories of trying to find a good guy and being pressured and put into difficult situations in terms of being tempted to compromise their beliefs or their values or to wait until marriage, there have been guys that have been put in that very same situation as well. And I know personally I've had situations where you ask you know, what seems to be a very, you know, good and grounded girl out, good woman out, and you've gone out and all of a sudden, you know, maybe if not the third date, second date, and who knows, even the first date, you do feel pressured to go beyond that which you've committed, you know, not to do. I can recount several instances where I've gone out with a good young woman. Maybe she went to church, maybe she did this or that, and then all of a sudden, maybe we went and got some dinner and we watched a movie, and then, you know, it was very clear what the expectation was. And I remember one time in particular, I was asked, you know, like, okay, what's next? And I said, well, we're gonna pray the rosary. and then her eyes got very, very big and kind of looked down, and then she was like, yeah. So we prayed the entire rosary, and then we talked a little bit about it and about what happened, and then we went on, and we actually, it didn't work out between us ultimately, but we became good friends. And another instance I can recount was actually similar to that. It was a situation where I was studying abroad and at a university outside the United States, and again, what I thought was just someone who was committed to at least a somewhat chaste life. We went out, and it was clear that something else was expected, and I remember saying a prayer in my heart. I was like, Lord, help me just really genuinely help this woman. Help me genuinely, what can I say or do or say that's really going to be a witness to her and help her open her heart to you. And I was just like, I remember I told her, I said, listen, you are a beautiful woman. There's no doubt about that. But because you're so beautiful and because you have a beauty that's so much greater than what anyone else will ever tell you, the culture will tell you, I don't want to do that with you because you have more dignity and you need to know that. And I remember I told her that, and again, shocked. And then we wound up having about an hour-long conversation where she recounted to me all the different struggles she had had and the different issues that she was going through with her family and these different things. And it was really a powerful moment in her life. And I think we even prayed together. And then again, we became friends, and it wasn't anything, but it's also, it was an opportunity, I hope, for her, to see a little bit of Christ in me, and then in the moment, and then, what more can you really ask for? And then you just move forward in trust and hope and prayer, and know that God has the best in mind.
Wow.
I know.
That just really got me all choked up when he was talking about, you are beautiful. There's no doubt you're beautiful, but you're
Right.
so beautiful that I want to treat you
With that kind of
respect
respect
and
yeah.
dignity.
Yes, and he also got into an important point, which is one of the instances the young lady recounted, like the struggles she had, and maybe what she was really looking for was true friendship and love, even if it was not real love, but something where she felt love. And so it was beautiful that he could minister to her in that moment. And that's what I really think a lot of people are looking for, that maybe are leading unchaste lives, is they really are wounded. They're looking for love, even if it's just something artificial.
How much do you oh, go ahead, Jen.
No, I'm just saying that, well, whoever does date Joffrey, they're going to get a real gem, certainly. And of course, he's still over in Rome. Like we said, 7 languages, canon lawyer. He works for Priests for Life. He also assists the Pontifical Council for the Family with a lot of duties. And with the World Meeting of Families, he's been very involved with that. And he'll be stateside for the World Meeting of Families.
Imagine the pressure.
yeah.
Even worse over in Europe, where the culture is already is. I mean, it's bad here in the States, but over in Europe, it's much worse. But I was going to ask you, with your work with young people that you've done, don't you think that some of them are automatically thinking, this is what I have to do? I have to hop into bed at the first date, second date. That's what's
The
expected
media
of me.
shows you, and now at schools, the sex ed classes basically expect young people to act that way. So if you don't have a higher standard for young people, it's just even parents, say, well, the reality is this, so I'm going to have to at least have them be protected. And it's unfortunate that we're not expecting more for young people. We really need to apologize to young people that we're not thinking more of them, calling them to something higher. Young people are, I think a lot of them are tired of seeing the culture the way it is, this hookup culture. They want something more. They need voices of people inviting them to do something more. And I think something really important that we have to remember is I hear often from chastity speakers that the standards a woman sets forth, the men will go forward and meet them. You know, if there's a culture of ladies standing up, there will be a culture of gentlemen that follows. And I think that's something that women have to understand and hopefully live up to.
Think about what happened earlier this year with all the spring break issues that came up. I mean, they are walking into just, I mean, you talk about walking into harm's way and not only exposing themselves, God forbid, to sex trafficking, which is happening all over the world and which is a huge problem, but walking into a situation where we had, it was horrible story about a gang rape when people were watching. And this is a kind of culture that anything goes. And we have to realize that the responsibility is not just on women, but it's on men as well. And they're both called to these standards, which is the best for them.
Right.
And
you know, with the spring break thing, I always say to the parents, you know, it's your fault too, because who lets their high
for their
school
college
or
education?
college person go off on these vacations? They're flying places in Mexico and the Caribbean, and they're spending money in hotels. Who's allowing this? Who's and so parents, if you're being an enabler, I mean, I never let my daughters go on spring break. We just didn't do that.
My niece tried that once. She's now married with children of her own, but when she was in college, she said to my sister, well, I'm going to go on spring break down to Florida. I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. My sister said, well, fine, if you go, just remember when you come back, I'm no longer going to pay for your tuition and we're not paying for your car insurance. So bingo.
Okay, right.
All right, we have to break, but when we come back, Janet, we're going to be hearing from Pam Stenzel, who is an amazing chastity speaker.
That's
and you talk about somebody who tells it like it is.
yes,
She does.
She does not mince words. So this is going to be interesting. She's going to give us an idea of just how bad it is out there, what it's like, and the fallout from this kind of dangerous lifestyle that, again, says anything goes, and the beauty of chastity and why Father knows best, Mother knows best, and Holy Mother Church, of course, knows best. We'll be right back on Catholic View for Women. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Catholic View for Women. Teresa Tomeo here, along with, of course, Astrid Bennett Gutierrez and my co-host, also Janet Morena. And this is an interesting topic. We're talking about let's hear it for the guys. Let's support the guys out there. We just heard a few minutes ago from Joffrey Strickland, who lives and works in Rome, and is all about upholding the teachings of the Church and encouraging other women whom he dates and comes in contact with to do the same. And now we're going to hear a very interesting interview with Pam Stenzel, who's probably, wouldn't you say, Astrid, one of the top speakers on chastity and the issue worldwide. I mean, and she is phenomenal. She is a convert to Catholicism, and she's also very active in the pro-life movement. But Janet, you sat down with her not too long ago. Tell us what we're going to hear about in the clip.
Well, basically, you know, Pam was in the East Coast, actually not far from my home in Metuchen, New Jersey. She was speaking for the diocese, and I took advantage. I said, come on over to my house, and we're going to interview. And I was telling her about this whole, you know, I said, come on, Pam, I've heard you talk about your chastity talks, and the focus is always talking about the girls, but let's hear some guy stories. So in this clip, we'll hear what she says about the guys, some advice.
And I think it's important to hear it from her because she sees so much out there in the culture because she's talking about
she raised sons. She has sons.
Right.
She raised sons.
All right, so let's hear what Pam Stenzel has to say. She is a world-renowned chastity speaker, and here's her perspective on the guys.
Our culture is just screamed at our young girls that what makes them valuable is their body. So 40 years past feminism, it's not their mind, their character, who they are as young women, it's whether or not they're sexually attractive to men. And this is what's thrown at them in the culture. And so what do girls think? They think I need to dress a certain way, I need to show certain body parts in order to get the attention that I need. And then the selfies and the Facebook and the over attention on ourselves is not been helping our girls at all. And what girls need to understand is that men are very visual sexually, and so of course, if you're going to dress in that manner, you're going to get that kind of attention. But is that really what you want? Do you want to be acknowledged for who you are, or do you want to be a conglomeration of body parts? And the way you put yourself forward, if you demand respect, you get it. If you demand that guys oogle you, that's probably what's going to happen. So many girls would say to me, "Well, why do I always get such losers?" Maybe you're baiting the loser with how you're trying to be attractive to men. And so I tell girls all the time, opposites might attract when it comes to personality, not when it comes to character. You're going to get exactly what you are. So if you would spend more time worrying about who you are on the inside, your character qualities, being more like Christ, having gentleness and love and the fruits of the Spirit, if you worry more about who you are on the inside, you're going to get that kind of guy and a man of God. You want a man of God, you have to be a woman of God, not act like one. And if you don't care, you'll bait the hook with your body, and what you get is shallow men looking for a good time. I think students today are finally kind of getting it, that this sex with no meaning, this hookup culture is really empty, and they're starting to go, the physical risk, the emotional risk isn't worth it, and there's a group of students that are starting to kind of reject this whole message of casual sex, if we would call it that. And I was speaking at a Catholic high school, and a senior boy, 6'8", in my world that's a giant, tall boy, was chasing me down the hall. His teachers told me he was a 4.0 student, full ride scholarship to play basketball at Duke University. Chased me down the hall with his arms in the air yelling, "Virgin!" You don't miss a 6'8" senior yelling "virgin" at you down the hallway. And he caught up with me and he said, "Pam, it's easy for girls. It's easy for girls to tell people they're virgins, but you don't know what it's like for a boy. You don't hear the locker room talk. You don't hear the boys on my basketball team mocking me, talking about what girls are easy. What do I say to all my friends when they're mocking me because I'm a senior and I'm still a virgin?" I looked at that young man and I said, "You know what? The next time your friends start to tease you because you're saving yourself for your wife, I want you to look at your friends and I want you to say this: any day, tonight, I could choose to be like you. But you will never again be like me. Once it's gone, it's gone. It takes that long to throw it away. It takes a lot of integrity and self-respect to wait." And I think there's a group of students who are beginning to believe that they're worth it, and that their marriage is worth it, and that even as difficult as it might be, it's worth doing the right thing. And I tell students all the time, Philippians 4:13 says this: "I can do all things through Christ who gives me the strength." We have everything we need to live lives of holiness. It's found in our faith in Jesus, his blessed mother, the sacrament. We have everything we need to live lives of holiness, and we need to just grasp onto our faith and do that.
It'd be nice if she would tell us how she really feels.
I know.
Awesome. And what a statement about that young man.
She told me a beautiful story about her son when they got married. Of course, he dated a girl also who was chaste, and of course her son. And she said they both had purity rings, and that they gave up on the altar and then exchanged their vows and got their wedding rings back. So they placed their purity rings on the altar and then got their wedding rings. And it's so beautiful. She got me all teary when she was telling me the story.
Of course.
So she really instilled this in her three sons. And she said, "It wasn't easy, Janet. It wasn't easy." And you could see by what she said, it's tough love,
The parents' role is so crucial. And something she doesn't mention about this young man, the 6'8" young man, is that he actually told her that the reason why he had made a commitment to chastity is he'd seen a Pam Stenzel DVD in his confirmation class that he never forgot. So we have to make this topic a priority. And so parents who can't find a class for their kids to go to, buy a DVD from Pam Stenzel's website and just play it for your kids. Discuss this information. Just be proactive and don't be passive about this, and talk about it often. I actually saw Pam not too long ago. She did a workshop for parents, and she stressed how important it is for parents to be involved in their kids' formation. And she gave some really good practical tips for parents. The first one that she mentioned was, first of all, do not abdicate your role. You have to be a part of this. You're going to be accountable to God one day about your formation for your kids. It's their souls we're talking about here. The first thing she said was delaying gratification. Does your child know how to delay gratification? Or do they always want to feel good in the moment and they can't wait for something? Like, for example, saving their money to be able to buy something later. Do they have that discipline? And then number 2, personal responsibility. Instead of playing the blame game, sort of like Adam and Eve, the blame game, she says, own up to your weaknesses and your failures and go to confession. You know, have that humility. Number 3, teach empathy. How important is it for guys especially to understand the position they're putting the girls in when they get involved sexually? The girls have physically, emotionally more to lose than the young men. So having that empathy is so important. And then bringing up chastity often. The culture provides so many opportunities.
That's
all
right.
these films coming out, all these things coming up. Instead of being at war with the culture, she says use the culture. Opportunities to teach your kids about why that is not acceptable, why that does not, is not. Why does it not teach dignity of the person? And then something else she mentioned, which is really beautiful, is to provide a ritual wherein the children make a commitment to chastity. And she said that there's a family where the parents took the young man or the young woman to dinner, and they actually asked for 4 places. And they had dinner, and they presented the young person with the ring, and they actually had a 4th place for the future spouse.
Wow.
And they
That's
ordered
nice.
dinner for the
Yeah.
person. I said, "There's that person, if you're called to marriage, is alive. So let's just think about that person and their soul, and you're making a commitment to a real person." So I thought that was really useful. She's
That's right.
spoken to so many parents and just all over the world. So I thought these tips were very useful. I hope it helps people viewing the show
And
today.
the other thing too is I think you have to set limits. You know, you start with when your children are young, and you know they start now with this term play dates. You know, little kids go on play dates. You know,
Right.
we didn't do that. I got together with my girlfriends, and
Play
our
dates.
kids played. But we never called it a play date. But you see how that language starts very young. And then you hear parents now allowing young teenagers, 13, 14 years old, to go out on a date. Who would allow that? I wouldn't. You know, so I think how we get into trouble, and the commitment to chastity, like you just said, is important. But I think you have to set rules and boundaries. And then when they're a little bit older and they come over with a girlfriend or boyfriend, well, do you allow them to go into the bedroom alone to watch TV? I've heard of cases where some parents allow this. Are you kidding me? They have to be in the open, in the family room, you know, enjoying the TV there with other
Absolutely.
people, or invite them to a meal or whatever. But this going off alone or go down to the den or whatever
Right.
is inappropriate, because you're allowing, you're
feeding into that culture.
You're letting the devil creep in.
Right.
You know, he's just there on their shoulder. You're the good angel, bad angel.
And young people, we know, and we've got to wrap up because we've got the homework, but you listen to Dr. A or any of our other experts that we have in EWTN, and they will tell you from a psychological perspective, kids don't have that understanding of what of what's going to harm them.
Right.
And your brain isn't fully developed until that part of the brain until, let's say, you're 20, 21 years old, or actually 25, you're right. And so what are we doing with
Right.
this and putting kids in harm's
And
way?
with young men, we have to remember chastity formation for young men. We have to think about pornography, their visual. So we did talk about in a previous episode about Delivered, the book
Yeah,
by Matt
which
Fradd.
is great.
Please
Yeah.
get it. A lot of young people are right now addicted to pornography. We have to help them. So parents, please educate yourself on this topic, especially for young men.
That's right.
And we have some. We want
a
to get to
quote-
the homework. I don't
But
know if we
before
have
homework,
time.
Teresa, I
Do
just
we-
want to read a quote from Mother Teresa.
Okay.
Okay. This is a nice quote. It's called, "A clean heart is a free heart. A free heart can love Christ with an undivided love in chastity, convinced that nothing and nobody will separate it from his love. Purity, chastity, and virginity created a special beauty in Mary that attracted God's attention." That's
I
from
can't
Mother
believe how
Teresa.
fast this episode went. So I'm going to turn it back over to you. And the other quotes that we were supposed to get to, we didn't have time
We'll
for.
put those on the website.
Put those on the website. But we
Absolutely.
do have the CatholicViewForWomen.com, and we're going to let Janet give us our homework assignment.
Well, of course, the homework will be on the website, thecatholicviewforwomen.com. The first is our friends at the Abstinence Clearinghouse have many great resources. You can go to abstinence.net for those. And, of course, at the Catholic View for Women, we're going to have our discussion questions we have under each episode. You just click on this episode, in addition to reminding you about the homework. And, of course, so we want you to sign up. We have a monthly e-letter that we send out each month. Get us your email, and we'll let you know what's going on, what we're doing, and other important things about our programming. And again, it's the CatholicViewForWomen.com.
And we also have, you said, the discussion questions. It's a great way to keep up the conversation and maybe even to challenge yourself. And what areas have have we all bought into the culture, because we're all impacted by it. I mean, we just can't help it because it's everywhere. It's at the gas station, it's in the elevator, it's everywhere. These messages, the billboards at the airport, wherever you go, you're hearing a particular message from the culture which is completely opposite of what the beautiful church teaches. So, wow, great discussion, and
That's right.
it's really, really good to hear it for the guys. So, thanks for watching us, and of course, this is the Catholic View for Women. I'm Teresa Tomeo, along with Astrid Bennett Gutierrez and Janet Morana, and please, we have so many resources on our website at thecatholicviewforwomen.com. Really want to encourage you to follow up and to make sure you do utilize those. And if you have a question, email us.
That's right.
Give us a shout out, an email, a Facebook, friend us on Facebook. And again, this is the Catholic View for Women. Glad you joined us. And don't forget, let's hear it for the gals, but also for the guys. CatholicViewForWomen.com, and we'll see you next time right here on EWTN. Thanks for joining us.